We're live.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Celebrating Friendship in Romance event. My name is Ariana, and I'm the events coordinator here at LSA. And I have the great pleasure of being here today with both Reese Ryan and Danielle Allen. I'm actually going to go ahead and give it off to Reese and Danielle to do a further introduction of themselves. But before that, I'm going to jump into a few logistic items. So, Reese and Danielle are going to be having a conversation for about 45 minutes. And then, usually around the last 15 to 20 minutes of the event, they will go ahead and answer any patron questions. So, if you have any questions for either of them, you can go ahead and leave it in the YouTube chat and they will go ahead and answer it. So, Reese, Danielle, I will pass it on to you.
Thank you, Ariana. First of all, hello, and thank you so much for joining us tonight, either live tonight or via replay for this chat celebrating friendship in romance. And by way of introduction, I'm Reese Ryan. I'm the author of sexy, emotional, grown folks romantic fiction. I write about characters who find love while navigating career crisis and family drama. And if you're familiar with me at all, you know that I love a nice big cast of friends and family that are integral to the story. So this evening, we're going to talk about romances that also incorporate really strong friendships in the storyline. We're going to talk about why we like writing them and offer a few recs of stories that do that well. And so that brings me to another point, and that's that we love to hear from you. So we want to keep this as interactive as we can. So if you have any questions or comments, by all means, drop them in the chat. And I am not great at doing multiple things at once, but Ariana is going to help us try to keep track of any questions. And if we don't answer them during the course of the chat, we will try to take them as time permits afterward. And so again, we're looking for your book recommendations, your questions, your comments, what have you. And if you're watching on the replay and you want to drop your questions or comments or what have you in the chat on the YouTube channel, I will definitely be checking back periodically so that I can answer your questions. All right. So two more quick thank yous. First of all, thank you to Love Sweet Arrow for hosting this event. If you're here, you probably know who they are already. If you don't, they are an independent romance bookseller based in Chicago, but they also sell, that's right, they also sell books online. So if you're not familiar with them, definitely do support them. They're an amazing group. So definitely support the store. And also a huge thank you to the Danielle Allen, who is super busy and has been working like up to the moment that we get started here. So thank you so much for being my conversation partner tonight. If you do not know Danielle, um, and you are a romance writer, I mean, a reader, you have probably been under a rock for the past year because you probably have seen her book, Curvy Girl Summer, somewhere because it's been featured everywhere for the last year. So we're definitely going to be talking about Danielle's book, Curvy Girl Summer, and my latest release, The Soulmate Project, which is the third and final book in my Holly Grove Island series. So I've already introduced myself a little bit, and we're going to talk about our books and stuff, as well as talking about friendship and romance and all of that. So I introduced myself already. So now I would like you, Danielle, to tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you write.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me to do this with you. I adore you, so
Thank
thank you.
you.
I am having an allergic reaction, so I'm sipping on my tea. So if you hear my voice go out a little bit, that's why it's not your connection, it's
Oh
me.
no.
But I'm Danielle Allen. I have been writing romance since 2013. My first book was Back to Life, and it was a I had a list of 30 things I wanted to do before I turned 30. writing a novel was number one on that list. And once I did it, I fell in love with the process. And 3 years later, I started writing full time. And then 7 years after that, I released my very first traditionally published book, which is Curvy Girl Summer. So it has been a 11-year journey that I
Wow.
love this. I love writing. I love the community and the camaraderie and the friendship that exists between authors, booksellers, readers. It's just such a beautiful romance community. And so that is me.
I I love it. So you said you started with your writing in 2013. Did you say you started in 2013 or was your first book published in 2013?
Both. I
Okay.
so I wrote a little book in third grade, and you
Yeah, we all did that.
okay. So like
Right.
that was. And because I got such great remarks, which looking back, I'm sure the teacher said the same thing about everybody's book, but of how like the feedback I got, I was like, yes, I want to do this. But I didn't
Yeah.
think regular people wrote books. I didn't know how that worked. So it had always been in like the background of what I wanted to do, but it wasn't until I wrote that list and I was really thinking of what are some things I really want to do that I've never done. And it was number one. So in 2013, I decided I was going to write a book. I wrote the book, figured out how to publish the book on Amazon, and that all happened within that period. And it was like such a pinnacle moment in my life because it was something I set out to do. And I still stand by the story. The story, amazing. Now, the writing, I have improved, but like the
We're
story
supposed
itself,
to, right?
exactly. The story, I still stand by wholeheartedly. And I feel like that was such a big moment in my life. And then for that to have like 11 years later, like this is still what I'm doing. I'm just so glad that I took that leap of faith because a lot of times people, they'll have things that it's been on their heart to do
Yeah.
and they won't do it because they're scared. And then they never get to see how it like can come to fruition.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. And I always love hearing the origin stories, right, of my favorite writers. And so, but I also, the reason too that I asked you that and it caught my attention is because I started writing. Well, I didn't start writing in 2013. My first book was published in 2013. But but I started back writing as an adult, maybe a
I
few
love
years before that.
that.
Yeah, 2013. So yeah, 2013 was when my first books came out. And I actually, speaking of those first books and the changes over time, I got the rights back to those first two books. And so I definitely wanted to take a moment and go back through them and do some changes and stuff before I republish them. So yeah. That's interesting.
I love
So
that so much. What were the name of, are you going to change the title?
you know what? I might not. Because I don't have a problem with the titles. It was Making the First Move I had two books come out in 2013. The first one was Making the First Move, and the second book was called Love Me Not. And so I probably will keep those titles, especially Love Me Not, because they actually especially with traditional publishing, you don't always get like the cover you want or the title you want and stuff, right? So over the course of my career, I've had 30, I think this book was 36, the 36th book to be published. And out of that 36, 20, maybe 27 of them were traditionally published. The majority were traditionally published. And out of those, I probably had three, maybe four, where they actually used my title. Love Me Not was the first one. So I definitely would keep my title. And that's one of the handful of trad books that I had where they actually used my title. I think I had like a total of maybe four. And so, so, so I don't
You
think
gotta
I'm
keep the title. You gotta keep it.
I gotta keep it. I gotta keep it. So I think I'm keeping that, but I am going to be changing some other things about the book. So since we are going to be discussing our books, for anyone who has not yet read Curvy Girl Summer, give us a quick overview of what the story is about.
Curvy Girl Summer is Aaliyah's journey to finding what she wants for her birthday. So she knows that she had decided that she was done with dating for a while. She wanted to recalibrate. And then she wanted to, like, now that she knows, okay, this is what I want, she's looking for that one. And so she spends her summer going on dates, swiping through the apps, and looking for the one, not just, she's looking for Mr. Right, not Mr. Right now. And so you are on this journey with her as she is going through her first time, like on apps and like going through the motions of dating and all of these first dates. And she has her best friends in her corner, and she has the bartender at her her she that has become her date spot. Like he's in her corner. So she has like people who have her back, but it is her journey through dating in today's time. And so we get to see if she makes it to her birthday with that man she was looking for.
Yeah. And that was another reason why I was so excited for us to be able to have this conversation because there's so many similarities there because so Aaliyah's on this whole journey of finding Mr. Right. And the Soulmate Project is about a 30 something who is ready to settle down with the next phase of her life. And she has this huge crush on her bestie, her best friend, her long time since childhood male best friend. And she finally tells him how she feels about him at the town's bonfire. And he does not uh, feel the same. And so, and so she's a little distraught about that. However, she also feels like she's spent enough time, kind of pining over him. And if he's not the one, then she needs to find a person who is. And so she creates the 7-step soulmate project for her to be able to find the right one. And so she
Love that.
she enlists her friends and family to help her with this plan. And since he is her best friend, he also agrees to help her with the plan, even though he's not happy about it. And so over the course of this thing, she's, learning more about herself and what she wants, but also he kind of starts to figure some stuff out as well. And so
Mhm.
because that is the reason, like I said, I chose this theme of celebrating friendship and romance is because we both books kind of have that in common about these women who are on the hunt for the right guy. And, they have this group of girlfriends who are ride or die, actively supporting them in their search for this man. And so, and plus on top of that, I love me a good secondary character, a cast of secondary characters. So that was just absolutely it for me. So one of the reasons I love writing secondary characters and these friends and stuff so much is because as people, we don't exist in a vacuum, right? So who we become has to do with our relationships that we've had in our life experiences. They shape our worldviews, they shape our views of ourselves, and the interactions that we have with other people speaks so much louder as to who a person is than any narration can in a book. And
Mhm.
so I love to apply that concept with my characters of showing who they are through these relationships they have with other people. And so I really enjoy playing with these secondary characters and all of that. And it shows who the character is and their beliefs and stuff in such a much more impactful way than just narration alone. Saying the person's nice versus showing why they're a good friend instead of just saying that they're this good friend. And
Absolutely.
so, why is it that you enjoy incorporating friends and other secondary characters in a story?
Those same exact reasons, when you are able to see the character in action, like, yes, you could say, oh, the person, like, she's nice, she's a sweetheart. But when you're able to see those actions played out, I feel like it resonates deeper. But also, I just feel like sometimes we are our ourselves with our best friends.
Mm,
And I think that in showing how our characters interact with the best friends, it's not like when we are putting our characters on a date or in a job interview or in a work setting where they are, as we always do, like we're showing up to work a different self than we show up to an outing with our friends. And
right.
so being able to show the character at their most relaxed self, their most peaceful self. And I feel like that's the same way when they finally meet that partner that they've been looking for. When you see them at their most relaxed, peaceful self, that's when you can see how that character really takes in the other character and how the main character interacts with those people really reflects on like not only who they are, but how the other person is impacting them. And I just think that's exciting to be able to see and to be able to show.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I feel like secondary characters definitely help bring the story to life in new ways. In some ways, I almost feel like the secondary characters are like co-pilots with me in the whole storytelling journey, right? Because a lot of times I let them do the heavy lifting in terms of showing who this character is and what they're thinking and feeling and all this kind of stuff. And not to mention the things that they can do in terms of like moving the story forward. So.
And, and there's things that secondary characters can get away with saying and doing that primary characters will get eaten alive for.
Oh my
And
goodness, yes.
so it is also a great outlet to show even like your heroine's response to things while letting like a secondary character do it. That way you can like showcase like, okay, their reaction, but you're not putting your, because a heroine will get ate up for doing like,
Girl.
like,
Now you're hitting one of my pet peeves in romance. I am so sorry, but that is a pet peeve of mine that men in romance can get away with everything and they're the asshole you love to hate and all that kind of stuff. And women get eaten alive. Female characters get eaten alive for doing those same things. So I thought it was really interesting how you kind of said you use that use that secondary character to get away with things that your primary character probably would not be able to get away with. So
absolutely.
that is something to think about.
You can always see people's reaction to the secondary character, but like, but the book as a whole won't like get that same heat because it was not the primary character that's doing.
Right, right. See, you are so smart. And I'm writing a character right now who's like tricky and like so it's I'm already knowing she's gonna catch heat for some of the stuff she's saying and thinking. But that is a good way to kind of diffuse that a little bit. So I love that.
But
Um,
it's like sometimes it doesn't necessarily work out like that because I know Nina did a lot of things that people like. Nina is Aaliyah's best friend, one of Aaliyah's best friends in Curvy Girl Summer. And a lot of the things that Nina would say and do goes against what people want their heroines to be. And I did that on purpose, knowing that Nina was going to get a book because it's like you already know how Nina is, like
yeah, yeah.
preparing you for Nina because when she gets her book. But if I would have started with Nina, it would have been a problem. But like starting with Aaliyah and you being able to see Nina on the peripheral, now you are braced for how Nina goes through life.
And that's an interesting way to approach it too, that whole setup, because I've definitely written a character before who, like when she was a secondary character in other books, and that was a family the Bourbon Brothers series. So it was the youngest sister Zora. And so like she was off the hook, she could say anything. But with her book, like that was the thing I was trying to balance her. Like I didn't want to take away from her personality and who she was
Mhm.
because she is who she is. And by the
Yeah,
time her book was book 5, so you've seen her for a minute, you know who she is.
you know
So I
her.
wanted to just book, like she was the spice, right? And so, but when it's the entire, you don't want the entire meal to be that spice, right? So, or at least a lot of times readers don't. And so I had to find ways to like kind of balance her, make her still her, but
Yes.
balance it
But,
out.
like she still has to be who she is.
For real, yeah. That was, and so that was a challenge, but it was a lot of fun. So, um, and then yeah, because Nina says and does what she wants to
It's
say.
Nina's world, baby. It's Nina's world, and we just living in it.
I love her. I love her. So, in terms of like how the friendships were formed or whatever, or the characters, for me, this is the third book in the series, and these characters have been pretty much all the characters in this book were introduced, at least introduced in book 1 in the series. So we've seen them, and I've just kind of enjoyed the way their relationships and stuff have evolved over the course of the series and how they continue to play like that integral role in the series. That's one of the things I I love my secondary characters, but I want them to be there in a meaningful way. So, and I love the way in both of our stories, like those secondary characters aren't just like there because they're gonna she's not just there because she's gonna get another book. It's not just for like, oh, she's introduced because she's gonna get another book. She plays a big role in the story in terms of how things work out and her support of her friend and stuff. So I love that about the story. So tell us a little bit about um Aaliyah and Nina and Jazz and the vibes of their friendship and how their friendship impacts Hurry Girl Summer.
So, like what you said, like all of the characters serve a purpose, and their purpose is their friendship. And so, in Aaliyah's book, Nina and Jasmine are living their lives and they have things going on in their lives. But just like when your friend calls you because she needs something or because they're going through something, you're there for her. And they each give the advice that they would give. They each are providing in service to their friendship to Aaliyah. They are operating in that way. And so it's so important that all of the characters not only serve the purpose that they're supposed to serve, but they have their own distinct personalities. They are all functioning as whole beings. And that's the only way they're going to be able to carry a book on their own anyway, because they are full selves. So for Aaliyah, she is more of I'm cautious. I know what I want, and I'm not going to settle for less than what I want. And I want to go on these dates, but I'm scared. And Nina is very much like, girl, get out there, do what you want, live your life. Take all the men. Why settle for one boyfriend when you can have four? Because of Jasmine's experiences, she's like, why even bother dating? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's only going to end up in heartbreak. Like,
Right.
well, don't even stress yourself with it. And so, but because they are supporting Aaliyah's journey, even though that's their take on their own lives, they're like, hey, approach this. This is the way you want to approach it. This is what you need to do. And so they are serving as our friends would do by supporting us the best way they know how, the best way, what they think is best for you, with a sprinkle of what they got going on too. And so Jasmine has a lot of emotional stuff happening in her life. So her support is just like, I'm here for you if you need to talk, not necessarily talking her out of dating, but just like, if this is what you want, like go for it. But like I got some things going on, so text me later. Nia is like, oh, I love a good date. What we about to get into? And so having them serve as whole people with their own lives going on is how they service not only the story, but anything you would want to do with them in a different story. And
Yeah.
so, and I feel like that's how like especially with your story, how they've been able to be kept alive through all of the like books before now is because they are whole and they're serving purposes outside of just the like you see them as actual friends of the character and not just a support of the story to serve the story's purpose. They operate as friends of the character. So that's how I think of it when I'm writing friend groups. Not necessarily how can they serve the story, they need to serve a story, but thinking of them as how are they serving their friend? How is their friendship? And then having that set is how it serves the story.
I love that. And I love what you mentioned about them having distinct personalities. They because they have these very distinct personalities, kind of like in real life. You have friends and stuff. This is the friend that you call when this happens. This is the friend that you call when that happens. And I love that about them. Their different approaches and stuff. They're both still supporting, her in what she's doing, but in different ways. And so that is, I feel like that's so important in a story, and when you have these other characters that they do have these very distinct personalities and roles, and that comes through in everything. In the Soulmate Project, Sinclair Buchanan, her book was the last book, and in the very beginning of the book, at the end of her book, as a matter of fact, it kind of set up for this book. But it's her that kind of like pushes Emery to say, hey, are you gonna be like this? Are you gonna have a crush on this man forever? Just tell this man what you think. And so like that's what Emery is like, hey, what if he doesn't feel the same? And she's like, well, then you'll know. And then you can move on. And so that's very much who Sinclair is. So I love that about her. And then Cassie, on the other hand, is like the very opposite kind of personality. Like she's very low key and kind of shy and stuff, but she is a ride or die friend. And if this is what you want, I'm gonna do everything that I can to make it happen for you. And so, I love the way that they both play very distinct roles in the story, in their friend's life. So, because that
And
does mimic real life.
and I feel like not only were they being true to being her friend, like it also was the setup for the story and it pushes the story because with her friend's encouragement, that's how she was like, all right, I'm gonna muster it up to tell this man how I've been feeling about him. Because her friend encouraged her to like, listen, what you gonna do? You gonna keep
Yeah.
whining or you gonna make a move? And so it's like that's her personality, but that's also her friendship. And so like I love that that is how it not only served the friendship, but in serving the friendship, it served the story.
Yeah, yeah. I'm all of, well, especially women or female friendships. I love writing those. But in this particular series, also, I think that was the first time I was really more cognizant of being deliberate about the male friendships
Oh, and
in this one.
I want to talk to you about that. So, do you feel like men and women can be just friends? Because in this one, she is pining for her friend. And so,
It's one of those like it's the perfect setup, right? Because I love writing that friends to lovers story. I'm writing a friends to lovers story right now, and so it's one of those things. It just depends. I guess it just depends on the situation. So I feel like a lot of the people that I know in real life who have a best friend of the opposite sex, a lot of times there is a point at which there's a moment where they're like, I think I like this. I think I like this person that's more than just a friend. And I'm just like, hmm. And it's just like, it's very much like romance. So you just never know. So, do I think it's possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's possible. But I think for the purpose of romance stories, it always ends up. And that's one of the things in this book for Nick, it's like, and it's not that he doesn't have feelings for her. It's not. It's just as the book goes on, we start to understand more why he is very, very gun shy about getting involved with a friend again, because he's done that before. And
Mm.
it did not work out. And this relationship is everything to him, So, and which takes us to like a whole nother conversation is that's one of the things with the Friends to Lovers book. That's always the dilemma, right? It's like readers will say, well, if they're best friends and they know they get along, why is it hard for them to figure out that they should be together? And for me, I see it the opposite. Like if that is a relationship that is key for you, especially in a situation like his, where it's been the one of the primary relationships in his life, and not just her, the people around her, her brother, her family, his family. So like if this goes wrong, he's not only going to lose her, he's going to lose this found family that's so key to him, right? So to
Yeah.
me, I understand why that feels like a big scary ask for him to change this relationship, whereas he knows, hey, if we keep it like this, then okay, we can just continue to be friends always. But if I screw this up, it did
Mhm.
not, the friendships did not, I could not maintain the friendships after that. And so that's why it's terrifying for him. So yeah, so that brings up an excellent question in
I
terms of
love
that.
writing Friends to Lovers. I love it because it's so easy. They're already friends. And so
Right.
it has that element to it. But I feel like one of my best friends is a man and I love him to pieces. And it has never been romantic. It will never be, it's not a romantic situation. It is, and so which is why in Insta Love, it is her best friend is a man, and like she ends up falling for somebody, and like he is instrumental in her like, all right, here's what I want to do, and like talking it through with him, and like that support, because like those friendships are valuable as well. But I think that especially in romance, it's so easy to write the friends to lovers because it's cute.
It is.
Oh,
And one of the reasons
but
I love it, I mean, the thing I love about Friends to Lovers. Okay, I'm Friends to Lovers, Enemies to Lovers, Second Chance. All of those I love so much because you have a strong foundation already
right,
built in
all
terms of,
established.
right? So like I have written I Just Met You romances, but to me those are much harder work for me mentally because you gotta like build everything from the ground. And I am not usually an insta love kind of person. So like even when I've been involved in projects with like a publisher where they have like certain things, okay, it's supposed to happen this way and it should be this timeline and stuff. I'm like, can you give me some more time? Because I can't do it in 2 weeks. I can't do it in 2 weeks, fall in love. Sorry, can you give me at least 3 months? Can I have 6 months? So so for me, I do like having an established relationship if I can already. Um, and then there's just so much more to build on. Honestly, my favorite thing to write is childhood friends who became enemies, who then become friends again and then get involved. Super weird, super specific, but I love it. And I keep finding ways to write that story because
No,
I
I
do love
feel
it.
like when you made me laugh and it made me cough because that's so funny.
Sorry.
Like, that's so you were super specific. You said actually it's childhood friends to enemies to lovers. If you want to get real precise with it, I love it. I love
I
it.
do. I just love it. I'm telling you, I got at least 3 books where it's where that has happened. And I just love writing that. But we were talking about before about the male friendships too. Like I said, I feel like too, a lot of times in romance, we do see like the strong women friendships, but not as often do you see the super strong male friendships. And so definitely, I don't know, in the last book in this series. Return the Hummingbird Away. That's the one where I really got a chance to dive into the relationship between the two guys in that book. And so yeah, just I love having those friendships in romance. Family too, I'm a family drama friendship kind of girl. And a lot of times your best friend might be a sister or a cousin or somebody who is family. So but I love that. So the next question I have for you is because that's okay. So the thing is, in romance, right? That's what people came for. They came for the love story. So when you have all these secondary characters, like these strong friendships, how do you manage balancing out the relationship and the friendship, so that, it's not something that's going to be knock people off, where they'll be upset because, oh, there's too much of the secondary character. First of all, if you're a person who don't like secondary characters, you probably want to move on from me anyway. But I'm just gonna tell you that. But I do try to keep in mind the balance of it. So how do you approach it, or do you think about it at all, whether or not you should balance it?
So I think it depends on the story. It really depends on the story because I feel like the main character is the star. And everything I feel like is serving that storyline. And sometimes if it ends up being like, um, I was just thinking about Insta Love because that her best friend's a man and he is involved with a woman and she's become close to her too. And so it's like a reality TV dating romance. So she's going on the show. And so there's parts where she's talking to her best friend about like going on the show and being like feeling her feelings about it. And he's like, you won't go in there and play yourself? Like what's going just like what that's what my male best friend would say if I told him that was going on a reality TV dating show. And so like having those moments that are real, I feel like really ground the character in who they are because I never want my character's only existence to be to find a man or to be in this romantic relationship. There's other things going on in this character's life. And so it always, in my opinion, I feel like it's a great balance. But I feel like, of course, I must say that because I wrote it. But I think it incorporates the friendship in a way that really um, is in service to the story. And then and the things that, because I'm trying to think, I don't think there's ever been a time where, like in Curvy Girl Summer, something's going on with Jasmine, but it doesn't like hone in on the conversations that they have with Jasmine about what specifically is going on. Nina's out here dating and like ripping around in the streets, but it doesn't really hone in. The conversations that you get are the ones where it's like they're giving Aaliyah advice. And then it'll say something like, and then we talked about what they had going on for X amount of time. So it doesn't really dive too deep in it. And in my mind, it's because like when you get their stories, then you'll get that extra. So I think making sure your main characters are real people that have lives outside of, because also like one of the characteristics of the character is that, well, hopefully, is that they're a good friend. And I feel like in showing how they relate to their friends is showcasing that. And so I don't think it takes away from the main storyline. Like if you are showing that they are a good friend, but if the whole thing is about what the friend got going on, then the friend need their own book.
Yeah.
What about you? How do you balance it? Because I know you said that like not only are the friendships important, but the family, like the drama within the family, are they all in service to the like romance? Or is this just other things going on in the character's life?
So for me, again, I discovered at some point that all of my stories, like often people were dealing with career issues and crisis or whatever, in addition to this family drama. And so at some point I realized that that is me. It just I embraced it. So yeah, it does make it a little trickier, and just like in terms of like I don't sit there and like having a pie chart or something where I'm like trying to figure out how much time I'm gonna put into family versus whatever. But sometimes, like for instance, in A Valentine for Christmas, that was the first book in my Valentine Vineyard series, and so I was introducing an entire family, right? So it's six siblings plus their dad, and some major stuff happened in terms of like at the outset of the book. Like they find out that they're related to this other family from the Bourbon brothers and all this kind of stuff. So there was a chapter like I had to like reveal a lot of that stuff. And I actually ended up in that book doing one chapter in the father's POV. Because most of it was in hers or his, but that one chapter was in the father's POV because he's the the patriarch of the family, and this thing happens that none of them know about, and so I felt like it needed to come from him. And so there were times when I was like, okay, is this too much? Is it too much time away, with the family drama that they were each having? Is it too much time away from the romance? And so like I always had to find ways to like have to bring it back to the romance, even though like maybe they weren't on the page together and stuff. So that's not a lot of books I've had that issue with, but that was definitely one that comes to mind right away, is that in terms of because it had that larger cast that got introduced in all this family stuff happening and all that there were times I'm like, okay, am I off the page too much? So yeah, sometimes it becomes an issue, but for the most part, I think like you said, if you try to convey them as real people with real lives, um, then it's just what happens in the flow of their lives, So, and so that it usually comes out that way most of the time. So,
And some of the work issues and family issues and maybe friendship issues that happen can impact the way the couple is relating to one another. So it still serves the story.
right, right. It absolutely still serves the story. Because for instance, in that book, she would never have been there if it hadn't have been for this family thing that was happening. That's what brought her to this little small town in
There
the
we
first
go.
place. And then his issues and his drama is what brought him to the town. And so, yeah, so that is a good point that that's still a part of the story. Like it works for the plot, a lot of times in terms of that. So, but going back to what you were saying before, there is a question that we have, and that is, and you pretty much answered that. Is do you think friends to love? Well, no, that's not. You did not answer that. Let me take that back. You answered the fact that your question about men and women being able to be friends in real life. Um, but this question is, do you think friends to lovers works in real life, or do you think people shouldn't chance it and potentially ruin the friendship? That is a good question because that is the whole basis of the Soulmate Project is, in this case, they have been friends since they were like 12. And so, it is like I said, it is a major deal for him. Like, like I said, it just annoys me when people are like, oh, they should just, it's no big deal. It is a huge deal for him. It is a huge deal for him because, especially when you look at, okay, what's happened in the past. If I do the same thing again, I'm going to lose not just this person who's the most important person in the world to me, I'm going to lose all these other people. But on the other hand, I do know people who have taken the friends to lovers and has worked out really well. Like one of them is an author friend, and I want to say who she is because I can't remember if she ever said her story publicly, but that's how her and her husband, who have been together for many years and have three amazing kids, that's how they became husband and wife, as they were friends and stuff. So it definitely works for some people, but I guess like anything that's worth having, there is risk involved sometimes, right? So
I feel like there's definitely risk. It's definitely risky, but does that mean you shouldn't do it? It depends. It depends on the individuals involved and their commitment to the relationship. Because I know in Truth or Dare, one of the group rules was none of us can hook up with one another because it's gonna mess up the friendship
the
group.
friendship dynamic, that makes sense.
Right? So nobody can hook up unless you are serious about it and you want to take it the distance. And I think that should be something that should be weighed. Because when you think about in real life, because you want to be friends with your partner, like you should be
Right,
friends with your partner.
right,
And so in theory, friends to lovers makes sense.
right.
But if the relationship does not work, especially if it like blows out in a very horrible way, there's really no returning back to the same level of friendship that it was. And I feel like that's the biggest risk of it all, because it's like you could have the friends and y'all can be friends, or you could, like, if y'all get together and it be you live happily ever after and it's perfect and wonderful and a beautiful thing, or you walk away and you lose like your romantic partner and your friend, and it, you know, so I feel like it's risky. I
Yeah,
think that it depends on both people, what they're looking for, what they want, and if they have like really thought about it all the way through and not just an attraction of
you're
like,
right. Right.
oh, let's get it in, but actually like, how does a relationship with us look? What do we want? Stuff like that.
No, that's an excellent point. And I use the real life example of a author friend who, friends to lovers, and they made it work and went to distance. But I remember friends of mine had a male best friend and had mentioned that she had feelings for him, and she were going back and forth about it, and I kind of Sinclaired her. I was like, hey, tell dude, and just, but you need to be able to, only if you feel like you can at least get past that fact, if it's not reciprocated. And it wasn't, but they were able to maintain their friendship after that. So not everybody can do that, but that's the thing. I feel like it needs to be established, and for me, in friends and lovers, is that idea of, hey, if we try this and it doesn't work out, the friendship is the most important thing. And so we want to at all costs preserve the
Yes.
friendship.
And I
Will
think
that work in real life? I mean, does it work in reality? Because like we can say things, right? You can say you're gonna do it, but when you get all up in your feelings, that makes things can change. So it gets a
definitely,
little risky. It gets a
I
little
feel
risky.
like that's why on paper it's so like cute to do, because it's not real people. But then also like that is a challenge. Like that's a real thing. And so when people are like, oh, that's not a big deal, I'm like, do your friendships not meet? What's going on?
That is an excellent question. That sums it up right there. Do your friendships not mean anything? Especially when it is a friendship like that, like your best friend, close friend that you've been friends with for many, many years. So yeah, I love that. That sums it up right there. So we have another question, and it is, although a lot of people love enemies to lovers, do you personally feel friends to lovers is a more realistic, healthier trope? I'll let you answer that one first.
So personally, I do think I most of my like books are either strangers to lovers or friends to lovers. And I feel like you had pointed out before, strangers to lovers, there's a lot more work that goes into building those strangers to lovers than with the friends to lovers, because there's already that established relationship. With the enemies to lovers, a true enemies to lovers, I feel like if they are hating each other, like what is at the core of like them hating each other? What is because like there are some things that I feel like you can't come back from, some things you might have said or did that would make you enemies. So I guess to me, it's just like, what is the thing? If it's like, oh, our families just have hated each other forever. And so we don't even really have no beef, but because a long time ago, our families hated each other. So now we're supposed to hate each other. I could see that being a way in for enemies to lovers, but I think friends to lovers is like healthier, because these people already like each other. They already have that bond. So it makes, in my opinion, it makes more sense that they would like, okay, let's see, like we could try that out. Then if you like thoroughly, truly hate somebody, and then it's like, oh, I wanna, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe.
Such a
Like,
horrible person that I want to sleep with him immediately.
right. So I think personally that Friends to Lovers is more realistic and healthier than Enemies to Lovers. But I've only written one Enemies to Lovers, and like it wasn't even a mutual, it was the cask, and it wasn't even a mutual enemy. Like she hated him and he was none the wiser. He loved her. He was like, he had no idea she was beefing with him. So
Yeah. I do like that one too. I've done that one too, where she hates him, hates his family or whatever. He has no idea who she is, so it's like a one-sided enemies to lovers or whatever. Yes, I would agree with that, and that's it for me too. Like, what is the reason that you have become enemies or hated it? Like in one book, it would be more accurate to say like a hate crush for me. But it's like, what is it? Like, is this something that you can come back from it? This person made some sort of mistake or they did something or whatever that, set y'all off in opposite directions, or it was a family thing or whatever. So that makes a difference. So it definitely absolutely makes a difference. For me, if it's a whole other thing if you just this horrible toxic person. That's not my jam. I know that's some people's jam. That's just not my jam. So because that's not the kind of person and I would want to be around. So, um, okay. Well, I'm sorry. Next question. Do you think in Friends to Lovers the attraction had to have always been there from the start, or do you think attraction grows as the friendship grows? Excellent question. I will let you take that one first, unless you want me to go first.
well, I think that it could either or. Like I think it depends on the characters. Like if we're talking about like because I've written stories where it was like at different times, like they had like little crushes on each other, but like the timing was never right. Or they are the type of friends where like they're cool, but like they went their separate ways in adulthood. So like they don't cross paths anymore. So they don't think about each other like that. And then like the ones where it's like it's been there or it like grew into it. Like they knew that the other one was attractive, but it kind of grew into it. So I think like it can depend on the characters, but I think that it can grow. It's like if you start working somewhere and like you like or working with your coworker and you see them and they're like, oh, okay. But then like as you get to know them, you're like, oh, they're actually cool. I actually like them. Like they're funny. That's my work bestie now. Like sometimes it takes that time. Like being around someone can change your like opinion of them. So I think it can grow.
Yeah. It definitely can go either or, but for me, I feel like almost like for it to be a true friends to lovers, I feel like it's not like the so like in this one, they were in the Soulmate Project, they became friends as kids. And so it wasn't until like maybe 5 years ago they were on vacation together. It was when she first started to like notice him and in a way she hadn't before, as opposed to over the entire course of their relationship. And the book I'm writing right now, they actually dated in high school first and decided, okay, yeah, this is not working. But they became best friends. And so that's who they've been for a very long time. But now they are kind of back around their group of high school friends. That group has kind of revived again and they're spending time together and they're seeing other couples who are getting that second chance. And each of them starts to kind of think differently about each other and about the situation and stuff. Yeah, it very much depends. But for me, I feel like I don't think I've ever written one where it's like the entire time we've been friends, I've had this crush on you. It's usually like in some way things have changed or something opened your eyes to the person in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the only one that I wrote where it was like that was Telltale, and it was like brother's best friend type of thing.
I love
And
a good brother's best friend.
so it was like she had like a little crush on him, and like since they were young, but like it never was anything. And so then and then they were adults.
Yeah. That changes some things. I love it. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for chatting with me this evening. I appreciate it so much. And it's another question, but I don't know if we'll have time for that. Let me see. Interesting. That is a deep question, and I don't think we have time for that. So maybe I'll try to address that one later. Because I wanted to ask you, first of all, this has been a release week for you. So tell us what has been happening this week for you.
It's been so many cool things happening. But this week, Big Nick Energy came out.
Fantastic title.
Thank you. And and it is a homecoming hot holiday hookup, if you will. It is from the Tales from HU, from Hamilton University. And so, it is a weekend. Asha and Paris go to Hamilton University for their homecoming and enjoy themselves. And Nick, who Asha had had a crush on since college, and it's been 10 years since graduation. So she's like, oh, he's gonna be there and he's single. Okay, it's game time. So that is Big Nick Energy. And so it has been homecoming week all week. So like there's been different giveaways happening on different social media platforms. Like one day it was on TikTok, one on Patreon, one on Instagram. Today is Instagram. So if you go to my Instagram, there's a giveaway happening right now. And so but Big Nick Energy is because most of my characters went to Hamilton University. And so that is the fictional university, the fictional HBCU where my characters have gone, and it's homecoming there. So we are celebrating.
I love it. I love it. And it just dawned on me that one thing I did not ask and we did not talk about is we did not mention any Rex outside of our own books, of course, that have this combination of friendship and romance. Is there a book or series that you would recommend for people who enjoy reading a romance that has good, strong friendships in it?
Goodness, I feel like I can't, I'm so bad with titles.
Me too.
Um, so I feel like I can put them in the comments later, but like when the first one that comes to mind, um, oh my goodness, it was the one I just saw. I feel like Bailey West just released something, and I believe she works at a salon with a friend, and so like that has friendship going on, and I feel like you you should have told me earlier so that I could like have the titles ready because I can see covers,
I know,
not
right, right.
titles or nothing.
I
But
am really bad at remembering titles. So like the first thing that came to mind was like the boyfriend, is it the boyfriend project with
oh,
Farrah
they're
Shown, that
showing.
series.
Yes.
And so they're the three friends, and even how they became friends is just so wild in that series. So that is a good one. And then uh, um this one, Savvy Sheldon, feels good as hell.
Ooh.
I love the friendships in this, the friendship group, the friend group in this series, in this book. So that is another a great one. And I had like three or four recommendations from readers that, of course, I left on the other side of the room. So I don't have it named right now. But if I, for my own series, I would say definitely the two that I would say is the Holly Grove Island series, which is the Soulmate Project is part of the Holly Grove Island series. That one, in terms of like being a friendship group, and then the indie series that I'm working on right now, the Love and Music Suite, is definitely is high school alumni of a high school. There's a school of the arts set in Atlanta, and they're all in the music industry, and they're all friends, and that has been really fun. Because honestly, when I started the series and conceived the series, I knew that they were going to be friends, but I didn't realize how pivotal the friendships were going to be in the series. So that's been really fun to write those series. And also just some of the things that have happened in the stories is I'm like almost like the characters are doing the work for me in terms of stuff happening that I did not intend or I didn't set out for in Never the Right Time for her to have anxiety or him to be dealing with grief. But that's just the way the story wrote itself.
I love it when the characters like just write themselves and it's just like, okay, I see you.
Yes, I see you. I see you. So I love that. So, but I just wanted to say thank you again, Danielle, so much for being here with me, especially given the fact that you got all the stuff going on this week and you barely got a voice and you're using it for us out here. So thank you so much. I appreciate you and adore you. And I love the Curvy Girl Summer, and I cannot wait for the next book in the series. And the cover is amazing. So I'm excited about that. So definitely loving that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you all for being here with us tonight. And thank you to Love Sweet Arrow again. Y'all are amazing.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you having me. Thank you, everybody. It's been a good time. Even though I can't speak, it's been a good time. Okay.
Hello.
Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. And a big, big thank you to Reese and Danielle for taking time out of their day to do this and for letting us listen in on this amazing conversation. Everyone, have a great night and a great start to